Hello, I'm Hal Ottaway with the Wichita Postcard Club, and it's time once again for Wichita Postcard of the Week. This week I have what is one of my most favorite Wichita postcards. And here it is. It's the B-29 Stratofortress airplane built here at Wichita Boeing on South Oliver. I can remember driving out here as a little kid, probably in the 1950s. I was born in 43, but driving along, and at that point there were B 47s on the runway. But here, just a few years earlier, this I think would be dated about 1944. We were still at war with Japan and with Germany, and was one of the Boeing production facilities in the country, and they were produced also, I think, in the state of Washington and also, I believe, in Georgia. But in any case, here is just a wonderful photographic image of this powerful airplane. It was much larger than the B 17 that had come before it, the Flying Fortress. But here was the Stratofortress. One of the neat things about this plane is that it was pressurized, and it wasn't so cold for the men. And well, it was all men flying at that point. But before, you just, in the B 17, I guess you just got in and you were cold, and it was long bombing runs and everything. It was really bad. But this one was pressurized. They were able to fly at a much higher altitude, and it's just incredible. This is also of interest to me, this particular postcard, because several years ago, a photographer that I followed along through the years, there was a major biography written about her, or maybe even partially autobiography, but it told about working in Wichita during World War II, and it just so happens that this photographer was a lady. And you might say, here she is right now with the her camera and how proud she was. But you've all heard about Rosie the Riveter, the ladies that came to Wichita and other industrial plants throughout the United States and used the rivet guns and did all of this work on planes and tanks and trucks and buses and everything. Well, you might say that Laura Gilpin, this photographer that I'm showing you her picture, she was Rosie the camera person, or Rosie the photographer. Ladies came to the workforce because so many men were off at war or training other men, working with them. And so we had a lot of need, or I had a great need for filling in the gaps in the workforce, and women really stepped forward and provided an amazing amount of help and skills. I had a uncle who taught welding, and he taught women too. It was right here in Wichita during all of that time. But this postcard is special because Laura Gilpin had them, open the hangar doors wide. You can see the wingspan is just incredible. I won't go into how many feet and everything, but you see that in the plane. And then she had them pull it out part ways from the hangar, and then she had the Boeing fire department come out with fire hoses and their water supply and to wet down this runway, or not runway, but just the area, the concrete area, surface area inside the big hangar and to the foreground. All of that gave her the reflection that you see with this plane and the light from the ground or the surface area made for a wonderful, wonderful picture. That's part of the skill of a photographer, to know things like this are possible and to be willing to try it, and to have, she was an important enough photographer that she was able to give those kinds of orders to other people, or a suggestion perhaps. But boy, this really captures the power and the dynamics of this workplace. It's just wonderful. It says Boeing B-29 Super Fortress production in Wichita. This is a real photo postcard. Many were made, and this is the back of it, showing all the details about the card, or about the plane itself. The by day and by night, giant B-29 Super Fortresses roll out of the doors of final assembly at the Wichita Division plants of Boeing Airplane Company. This is the way it was in 1944, right here on South Oliver. I wanted to say that after the war, Laura Gilpin moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and continued to live there for the rest of her life. I was fortunate in the 1970s to work at the Taos Bookshop in Taos, New Mexico, and once or twice a year, Laura would come north to Taos from Santa Fe, usually driven by friends, and she would always stop at the Taos Bookshop and say hello and look at books, and she would autograph things, and I had her books that I was especially proud of underneath in a shelf, kind of my little stash, and so I pulled them out at that time that she arrived, and she kindly autographed them for my wife and me. But this is a nice memory that I have of this important and really excellent, excellent photographer. She did this enduring Navajo book where she went to live with several families, got to know them well, and was able to photograph them on their reservation area in their homeland, really in eastern Arizona and western New Mexico. But she became famous for this work with the Navajo, and this is one of her seminal works, and with beautiful photographs throughout. It was fun to know her, or to meet her, really. I didn't know her, but to meet her and to see her at other locations when we lived there. But thanks for being here today. We do want to always ask you to please give us a thumbs up and a like on YouTube as well as Facebook, and we'll see you next week.